So did you always want to be a grief therapist? How did you get it? How does one get into that?
Yeah, when I was 6, I told my mother, I'm going to no.
Hi everybody, you are watching Paint Dry with Palmetto Paint. This is the video series where I sit down with a Bay County local and learn a little bit more about what they do. If you don't know me, I'm JD. I'm the director and co-founder of Palmetto Paint PC. We work with local nonprofits and charities to help them raise money for their causes. Today, I am sitting down with Denise from Angel House Bereavement Center. We are hosting a fundraiser for them at the end of the month. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. But Denise, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. When I was in high school, I took a psychology class, and I decided I wanted to be a psychologist.
Okay.
So I went to Auburn, majored in psychology. My third year, when I got into the major classes and stuff, I thought, I don't think this is what I want to do. I think I want to do something else. So I knew some people who were majoring in social work. Mm-hmm. I thought, that sounds like more what I want to do. So I minored in social work. By then, it was my third year, and if I'd stayed the 3 more years I would have had to have stayed, I was paying out-of-state tuition and all that. So I said, okay. I'll just get my master's. So I got my master's at University of South Carolina.
Okay.
And so, anyway, I did medical social work, did inpatient, psychiatric, outpatient, did a lot of different things, and then I went to work for hospice in '96. And it was following my father died in '95. He was diagnosed with cancer and died within a month. And so everything that my family went through, I just thought, I want to try and help people. And one of my friends actually had worked for the other hospice. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of knew what she did. And I thought, I'm going to try this. So anyway, I was with hospice for 18 and a half years. And I was their first, here it was Covenant. When they opened, I was their first social worker and bereavement specialist.
Okay.
So, and then I moved into just doing bereavement, and then I moved into doing education and training. So that's how I got into being a grief counselor. And I loved it. I really felt like through all of that I really found my niche in that, because it felt really good to be able to help people during a time when they were struggling and didn't know what to do, where to turn to. Because in our society, people don't like to talk about death and grief. Mm-hmm. And so, people end up suffering, and there's a lot of pressure just to get over it and be done with it and get on with your life, and that's not the way it works.
So what is your involvement with Angel House?
I am the executive director.
Okay. And
I do administrative stuff, but I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. And I have 25 years experience working in grief counseling.
Oh, wow.
So I also do some clinical work as well.
So you know what you're doing.
And I'm also one of the co-founders of Angel House. So
very cool. So how did Angel House get started?
I was worked with hospice for many, many years, and during that time, we had one of our co-founders of Angel House started working there. Okay. And so we found during that time that we worked, she was there 9 years, I was there for 18 and a half years. And so we found that we shared a dream, which was to one day open up a freestanding bereavement center. Okay. And so it was a dream we talked about and shared, and we both felt like really grief counseling was our niche. So in 2015, the opportunity presented itself for us to do that. And so we were 2 of the co-founders, and our other 2 co-founders, Lisa Herring and Janice Chavers, joined with us, as well as 10 founding volunteers who also came from hospice. Okay. And so we opened Angel House, the actual building, in April of 2015. We are a nonprofit 501(c)(3) United Way affiliated agency. And it takes a lot of paperwork, a lot of work to open a nonprofit. Oh, yeah. So
and to keep that 501(c)(3).
Yes. So, like I said, it has really been a journey, but a very rewarding journey.
What other organizations do y'all work with?
We work with a lot of other organizations. We take referrals. People can call and refer themselves.
Okay.
We also, our referrals in the last year have really increased because there's so many, with Hurricane Michael, with the pandemic, people experiencing so many losses. And let me say, we work with people who experience any type of loss.
Okay.
It can be related to death or any type of life transition, change. So with the pandemic, with Hurricane Michael, many life transitions, to say the least, and many losses, along with deaths. And so we've really increased those referrals. Bay District Schools, we've received referrals from Emerald Coast Behavioral, from hospitals, from private practice therapists, from doctor's offices.
Okay.
So really, many of the agencies. People sometimes will call and say, hey, I have somebody that's experiencing this. Can you help them? So, like I say, it's any type of loss.
I was listening to your episode of How You Doin Bay County, which is another podcast in town. And I'll put the link to that podcast in the notes because it's a really good podcast. But when y'all work with children, do y'all do any, they talked about play therapy, they talked about, there's very specific kinds of therapy for kids. Do y'all do any of that? Or?
We do some of that. We use, with children, they grieve differently than we do as adults. So using play therapy, using stories, using puppets, using games, activities, art, all kinds of things that we use with them. And we do work with children, work with adolescents, and also with adults.
Okay.
So usually children, the youngest about age 4.
Right. And the fundraiser that we're doing at the end of the month, the money from that is going to go toward y'all's outings for the kids. What are some places you partner with? Because I know you partner with Floriopolis, but that's the extent of my knowledge.
Yes, and we have a quarterly children's activity plan there June 4th. Now the one that's coming up is the Healing Hearts Rescue Ranch.
Oh, fun.
That is on April the 2nd.
Okay.
And we have partnered with them. We did, last year was the first year that we were able to offer the quarterly activity. So that was
That's
something
awesome.
that we really wanted to do, because we were getting more and more children referrals, and so we wanted to do something. And because of our sponsors, because of help from you and others, we were able to offer that at no cost.
That's
so, and the children had a great time, and I think the adults did too.
I'm sure they did. So, where did the name Angel House come from?
Well, it's a very sweet story. I'm going to try to tell you this story without crying.
Oh, don't cry. I'll cry.
I won't. But I already practiced it, so I don't. But one of our co-founders, Christina Casani, she was also our first executive director.
Okay.
When we were meeting to do all the paperwork to open a nonprofit, trying to look for a building and all of those things, we would meet probably once or twice a week. And so one day she came in and she said, I want to run something past y'all. She said, I have an idea for a name. And we were all like, great, because we hadn't thought of a name yet. That'd be good.
It's always a good point to get to is when you have a name.
Yeah, definitely. So she told a very sweet story, and it was about 6 months after her daughter's father died. They were in a parking lot. And so it was one of those days, when you're grieving, you never know when those tears are going to come. And so it was a day for her when those tears were just flowing continuously. And so her daughter picked up a little stone out of the parking lot and went up to her and said, do you know what this is? And her daughter was 4 at the time. And she said, no, I don't. Please tell me. And so she said, it's an angel house. And she said, there's an angel inside who knows your heart. And this angel is going to go fly up to God and to the universe and tell them what's in your heart. And so at that moment, she put her hands on her mom's hands and blew on the stone. And she said, the angel said to tell you, angels are everywhere. And so she blew on it and said, there she goes. She's going up to tell what's in your heart, and everything's going to be okay. And so when she told that story to us, of course, we were all in tears. And we said, oh, yes. And angels are a symbol of love, of hope, of strength. And so angels are there for people to comfort them and to aid them in times of trouble. So it really just fit what we envisioned and what we wanted to do. I think that's probably the first time I've told that story. It actually is on our brochure, so it's not a secret or anything. But it is so sweet, and it brings up a lot of emotions. Christina died in 2017, and so it was quite heartbreaking for our team. And so she was very instrumental and really the motivation for all of us. And like I said, it's a dream that we shared, and we all still miss her very much. But her legacy lives on in our work that we do every day.
I think that it's kind of misleading when we see, the stages of grief.
Well, let me tell you.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be glad to talk about it because I have a philosophy, an opinion on stages of grief. The Stages of Grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she did her research with individuals who were dying, and so the stages of grief that she never intended for them to be the stages of grief. They were really the stages of death and dying, although people took that and applied it to grief, but it was for people who were dying and those stages that they go through. When you say stages, it implies that it is a linear process, and so people will go through those stages and then they'll be done and everything will be great. Well, grief is not like that.
I'll say nope.
No, it's not at all. And so what we prefer to use is the task of grief, which is one of those grief experts, William Worden. He's great. We also use a lot of Wolfelt's information as well.
Okay.
The task actually it's the task of mourning, which mourning is the cultural response to grief. It's the way people work through their grief. And it's those rituals and practices that people engage in. So it's to basically accept the reality of the death, that the person has died. And sometimes just being able to accept that can be a challenge, and that can take a while. Sometimes people may feel numb and may really feel like they just can't accept that. It doesn't feel real. And that's very natural and normal. And so then it's to get to the pain of the grief, being able to do what we call the grief work, to be able to really express all the emotions, the thoughts. Grief impacts people in all areas of their life, emotionally, physically, socially, spiritually, and cognitively. And so being able to express all of that. And that can take a long time. Then to adjust to an environment where the person's missing, people taking on new roles and assuming those roles that their loved one held. And so, and there's no timetable to this either. So sometimes people have to kind of go back and forth through those tasks. And so the last one is to find that connection, that connection that lasts forever with a loved one, and then move forward in life. And so it's not forgetting your loved one, it's not getting over, because you never get over losing someone you love.
Right.
It is having a new relationship with that person. They're not here physically, but that emotional connection and that relationship continues. So it's being able to find that balance and being able to go on with life in whatever way that means with that person as in a new relationship there. So that's what we use, because that doesn't imply that somebody has to go through some stages, and it's different for everybody. And so that's what we try to in all of our educational programs and our groups, and then even working with people individually, because I've had people come in and say, okay, what stage am I in? Let's
back
talk
up
about
a little bit.
that. Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's more about getting people back to a state of functionality.
Exactly, being able to function, and it varies it varies on the loss, what kind of loss.
Of course, yeah.
And just kind of what their idea of functioning is. For some may, and it's not necessarily. Generally, our counseling, it's not something that goes on for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unusual for someone to come in and meet with us for, it may be a few sessions, it may be, for a couple, 3 months. And then they're doing okay. They're able to function. They feel like they can, do some things on their own now. And then they're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months later, as it may be coming up on the 1-year anniversary, they call and say, I'm falling apart again, which is not unusual.
Right.
And so they may come in and kind of meet with us some more. We've had people that their loss has been years ago,
mm-hmm.
and they call and say, I'm falling apart, I don't know what's wrong with me. And it may be a loss that they didn't really grieve at the time for whatever,
mm-hmm.
or it may be one of those situations where their loss was complicated. Maybe they had multiple losses, which is something that we've seen with Hurricane Michael and the pandemic.
Right.
With all the changes in routines, for some people losing their entire homes, for some losing their jobs, and in the midst of all that, they may have lost a loved one or
mm-hmm.
two, or a pet, or something. And so that when there are multiple losses like that, it really can complicate the grief journey, which means that you have to be able to look at each of those losses and be able to grieve those, because when you try and grieve all those together, it just becomes one big grief ball and it's unmanageable.
I'm not going to have anything to edit out of this one. I'm just going to keep it all.
Well, I can talk about grief.
Professionally, in fact.
Yeah, I can talk about grief for hours. So stop me when you've heard enough.
Well, and I like that you can laugh about it. We embrace humor as a way of coping and a way of dealing and a way of, moving past things.
And it's a very healthy coping
mm-hmm.
mechanism, strategy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It very much is. And, it's not, and some people, you'll see that. I remember at my at my mother's funeral, at my daddy's funeral as well. I mean, you're crying 1 minute, and then somebody says something, and everybody's laughing. People probably think, what in the world? But I did a support group one time at my church, and we went through 8 weeks, and during that 8 weeks, the participants were sharing their stories, and of course there were lots of tears.
Mm-hmm.
And so after the 8 weeks was up, they said, we're not done. We want to continue this. I said, okay, that's fine. And so the next 8 weeks, there was a lot more laughter and humor and sharing funny stories. And one of the participants said, people walk by here, they'd never believe we were in a grief support group.
So what are some of the services that Angel House provides?
We provide individual sessions. We do, and again, it's for children, adolescents, and adults. And we also provide grief support groups. Now, with COVID, we've had to suspend those. We have offered University of Florida, their extension office allowed us to use their conference room. It's a lot bigger than ours. Is small, our office, and so we were able to do that. We also offer an annual Healing Through the Holidays program, and we do presentations for. I've gone to different organizations and done presentations. We've also done presentations for continuing education for professionals. And we also have, we've hosted student interns, like mental health counseling interns or social work interns doing their field placement internship.
Okay.
We have one now who's doing her internship with us. So we do that as well. So we're always willing. If I've had places, organizations call and say, hey, we've had a death, one of our employees, can you come and talk with them and, do some education on grief and provide some services and that type of thing. So we do that. And we do that at no cost, no charge to them, something we offer to the community.
Okay.
So, I've done training with the different agencies. The HOPE team, after the hurricane, through life management, they wanted to have some training for their workers on grief and loss, and so I did a 3-hour training for them. So
Okay.
We do a lot of different things, try to make those connections in the community. Yeah.
So, are all of your services free? Is it an insurance charge? How does that work?
We do not take insurance because grief is not
Covered?
a mental disorder.
It's not covered?
Well, you have to have a diagnosis, which means you have to have a code
Uh-huh.
to bill, and grief doesn't have a code. So, some people, when they're grieving, they might experience depression or anxiety, but we don't want to get into all of that. If we need to make a referral for them for medication or, whatever, we always encourage them to, get checked out by their doctor and just to make sure, everything's okay, because sometimes grief can manifest in physical symptoms. So, but we do a very generous sliding scale. So it's based on income and number of dependents. So that's what we do. Now we do have some scholarship funds, grants that we've received that will cover for people, because there have been a lot of people who've been struggling financially.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to make sure that people who need it are able to receive the services. So we do have that option too.
Okay.
We've been very blessed. We have not been able to have our major fundraiser, Dazzle and Dine, since 2019 because of COVID. So we've done some other fundraising things, and we have been very blessed with receiving some grants that have helped tremendously. Our community is very giving, so we've been very fortunate, very appreciative of that.
What is something that you want the community to know about your work that maybe isn't on your flyer or your website?
That it is truly an honor to walk with people on their journey. Alan Wolfeld, as I mentioned earlier, he talks about companioning with the bereaved, which means we don't come in as an expert. We come in as someone to walk with them in that journey and assist them in their journey in whatever way their journey looks like, because everybody grieves differently.
Right.
And so, we don't come in with any of the expectations like they may be receiving from family and friends, but it truly is an honor. And like I said earlier, since I started doing grief counseling, I've always felt like it's what I was meant to do. And so it truly is an honor to walk with people in that journey. It doesn't feel like work.
How can people receive services from Angel House?
They can call us.
Okay.
And just request. And sometimes we'll have family members who will call and say, and I'll just give an example. An adult child call and say, Daddy died and Mama's not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is pretty natural and expected.
Right.
And so what we encourage them to do is, have Mama call us and make sure this is what Mama feels like she needs. So, but people can call us and say, hey, I need help, need support, and don't let any cost deter them, because again, we will work with people. We want them to receive the services if they need it. So, like I say, we take referrals. People can do self-referral.
Okay. Where are y'all located?
We're at 1015 Grace Avenue, Unit C.
Oh, y'all are right over here.
Yep, we're not far. Didn't take me long to get here at all. Got in my car and came right here.
Y'all are very close. I didn't realize y'all were that close.
We are very close, yeah. I could fill it in a little bit, couldn't I?
You can do it however you want to do it. It's your logo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, didn't I? I look at that and go, that don't look like your logo. Well, it's my interpretation of it.
It's an artistic interpretation.
Yeah, that's right. Art is subjective, right?
So where can people find out more about Angel House?
They can go to our website. They can go to our Facebook page and look us up and see what we're all about.
Okay.
If they have questions, they can call if they have questions too. We pretty much, and we do, if our office manager's there Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
Denise and I are there on Fridays. Mondays, she's there sometimes.
There's two Denises.
There are two Denise, yeah. Denise Burrell is our Director of Children and Adolescent Services.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a little confusing for people. But anyway, we do have an answer machine, and we do check that. I know sometimes people are hesitant to leave messages, but we do check that frequently. And if we're in session, if we're both there and in session with clients, then we don't say, hey, let me answer that phone. That would not be good.
Yeah, no. So our fundraiser for Angel House that's coming up on the 25th, 26th, whatever the last Friday is.
I think it's the 25th.
25th?
I think so.
It's whatever the last Friday of this month is. But that fundraiser that's coming up, it's going to be this birdhouse painting. So this time we're trying something new. Everyone who registers, I'm going to pre-draw your outline. So everything's going to be on there. You just got to come and color it in, basically. So it's really important that you register beforehand, because otherwise it will not be drawn and ready when you get here. But it's $5 to reserve your seat, and then $30 cash due at the door. And that money goes straight to a representative of Angel House, one of the Denises. But yeah, the $5 pays for your supplies. The $30 goes straight to Angel House, and is going to help pay for their quarterly children's activities. And we'll be doing, like I said, that birdhouse. It is a complicated painting. That's why we are drawing it ahead of time, so that you can just show up and paint it. Denise, the other Denise, really wanted a birdhouse or something springy or something for Valentine's. Those were my three parameters, so we kind of mixed it all together for a birdhouse.
And having it drawn on there is much easier. Glad I didn't take up your whole night talking about grief. Because I probably could.
Yeah, that's why you're here. It's fine. I like people that do work that I wouldn't do. I just, or that I can't wrap my head around. How do you do that?
It is not for everybody.
Yeah.
It truly is not. My sister, she says the same thing. She says, I don't know how you do that. I'd be sitting there crying all the time.
I used to never cry until my granddad passed. It's like literally since then, it's just been anything. There's waterworks.
Well, and sometimes it takes a loss like that, and it just kind of opens up those floodgates and lets a lot of those emotions out. And sometimes the crying comes at real inconvenient times.
It does. We were sitting in a movie back in December, and there's some new, I forget if it's Chevy or Ford commercial, or anyway, and it's, this daughter gets her mom's car.
Yes.
Middle of the movie theater, I just lost it. I was like, well, movie hadn't even started yet. Here I am.
I lost it when I saw it too.
Yeah, that was. It does. Thank you.
Oh gosh, yes. It's like Hallmark commercials, Publix commercials. Goodness gracious. Yours looks nice.
Thank you.
You got a little halo. I like that.
It's not quite y'all's logo. We got away from it, but
It's hey. I like yours. That's pretty.
thank you. You ready to show them off?
Yeah.
All right. Ta-da! Just being very, very careful with it.
Yeah, because.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and thank you so much for doing the fundraiser for us.
Oh,
Really
absolutely.
appreciate
Thank y'all
that.
for what y'all do for the community, because I don't know. Bless you.
Thank you. It's an honor, truly.
So, is there anything else that you need to plug, or anything else you need to say?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered everything.
Good. Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time deleting anything out of this one, so it might end up being an hour long. I don't know. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you want to find out more about the fundraiser, you can visit palmettopaintpc.weebly.com. It is a Weebly site, so it's super easy to sign up for our classes and get your ticket for the fundraiser. You can find out more about us at Palmetto Paint PC on Facebook. That's where we post all of our events. And on Instagram, we use our separate accounts, but it's under the hashtag Every Canvas Counts. So that's where you can keep up with us. And follow Angel House on Facebook and check out their website. And feel free to reach out to them if you need their assistance. Thank you again.
Thank you.